The following is an excerpt from the book Experiences of Thought by Anthony Kahn, available now on Amazon.com and Kindle. The Ideal World, School of Hard Knocks. Life is not an easy journey, and it has led many, if not all of us, to question whether there is any ultimate reason to our existence. Is there really any justice in the end? How can God be good if He lets such terrible things happen? We have stated numerous times by this point that our world is ultimately deterministic. We cannot expect our world to be other than that which we have made it, and we have made it the way it is because we are imperfect. There is hatred in the world because we hate. There is cruelty in the world because we can bring ourselves to justify cruelty. But why do the innocent suffer? The problem is that when we divide the world into perpetrators and victims, we commit a logical error and subscribe to an oversimplification. Every one of us is both a perpetrator and a victim. Every one of us acts kindly on some occasions and selfishly at other times, and thus play our part in making the world what it is, for better or worse. This is not to say that we are all guilty of terrible crimes, but we may nevertheless facilitate such crimes without even realizing it, through our own sheer ignorance. We may be quick to demand that a terrible criminal be locked up and made to suffer for the atrocity that they have committed, but were we equally passionate about ensuring that they received the help they needed that might have prevented it? We can be very quick to fill with righteous anger, but we are not always so quickly overcome with compassion. And yet compassion is arguably the noblest trait and the highest form of love. But what exactly is it? As we noted in section 5.10, it is ultimately our capacity to experience that defines our intrinsic worth. We are special because we experience and have a right to experience all that which is good and to be protected from all that is bad. Compassion is a deep realization of the worth of another and of oneself, and is characterized by a strong desire to bring happiness to another and take away their suffering. But we are generally more able to show compassion in some circumstances than in others. If we cannot feel compassion for all, however, then we do not yet truly understand all kinds of suffering. In other words, we have not yet learned all of life's lessons, as we are still unable to empathize with those in certain situations. So how are we going to learn so that we can be kinder and more compassionate beings? Logic mandates that there is really only one way, and that is to experience that suffering at some level ourselves. This does not necessarily mean that we must endure every horrific experience possible, but we must nevertheless experience enough that we can understand that a particular predicament is horrific for someone to endure. So, in the end, it would seem a logical necessity that if we are to grow in that which is most critical to becoming a being of wisdom and understanding, specifically compassion, then we must inevitably suffer. It is only in suffering that we can ultimately understand the worth of each other, and until we can fully appreciate each other's worth, we are simply not ready to graduate from the school of life, the school of hard knocks. We all have at some point in time pondered the meaning of life, but the meaning is ultimately locked up in the act of being, of experiencing. We exist to be happy and not to suffer. But to be truly happy, we need to bring happiness not just to ourselves, but to each other. We are all interconnected after all. In order to be able to do this, in order to be law-abiding citizens within a utopia, we need to truly understand what happiness is and what it is not. Ironically, this means that we must experience not being happy and thus suffering. The meaning of this life is to live, but also to learn. We can be happy, but we must also experience unhappiness, as we are not yet refined enough to forego that experience.